Hello, and welcome to English in Fluency. I am your host, Alex, and I am so incredibly happy to have you here with me today. If you have been following our journey, you know that our goal is not just to learn grammar rules or memorize long lists of vocabulary, but to find a natural, comfortable flow in the language. Today, we are going to tackle one of the biggest, scariest monsters that language learners face. It is that moment of panic when you are listening to someone speak English, and suddenly, you hear a word you do not know. Your heart starts beating faster, your palms get sweaty, and your brain stops working. You get stuck on that one unknown word, and because you are stuck, you miss everything else the person says afterwards. If this sounds familiar to you, take a deep breath right now because you are in the right place. Today, we are going to fix this. We are going to learn the art of understanding the main message. We are going to build your confidence by teaching you how to ignore the difficult words and focus on the big picture. By the end of this session, you will feel lighter, calmer, and much more ready to handle real-world conversations. Let us start by imagining a puzzle. Imagine you have a beautiful jigsaw puzzle of a landscape. It has 500 pieces. You can see the blue sky, the green mountains, and a little cottage in the valley. Now, imagine that 3 or 4 pieces of that puzzle are missing. Maybe a piece of the sky is gone, or a piece of the grass is lost under the sofa. Does the picture stop being a landscape? No. You can still look at it and say, "This is a picture of a mountain and a house." You do not need every single piece to understand the image. Listening to English is exactly the same. The words you do not know are just missing puzzle pieces. You do not need them to see the beautiful picture of the conversation. The problem is that many students try to translate every single word in their heads as they hear it. This is impossible to do in real time. When you try to translate everything, you create a traffic jam in your brain. The speaker keeps talking, but your brain is still stuck on the second sentence. Today, we are going to practice the skill of letting go. We are going to practice guessing the meaning from the context, which is the situation around the words. To help us practice this, I want to tell you a story about a man named Leo. I want you to listen to this story comfortably. Do not try to write anything down. Just sit back, maybe close your eyes if you can, and try to imagine the scene in your mind like a movie. If you miss a word, just let it go and keep watching the movie in your head. Leo is a graphic designer who has just moved to a new city where everyone speaks English. He is quite shy, and he is very nervous about his English skills. One rainy Tuesday morning, Leo decides he needs to go to the bank to open a new account. He puts on his coat, grabs his umbrella, and walks out into the wet gray streets. He is practicing what he wants to say in his head. He repeats the phrase, "I would like to open a bank account," over and over again. He feels ready. He walks into the bank, and it is warm and quiet inside. There is a security guard standing by the door who nods at him. Leo walks up to the front desk. The woman behind the desk looks very professional. She is wearing glasses and typing quickly on her computer. She stops, looks up at Leo with a polite smile, and speaks. She says, "Good morning, sir. Are you here for a transaction or looking to schedule a consultation with an advisor?" Now, let us pause right there. Imagine you are Leo. You just heard a long sentence with some big words. Maybe you know the word transaction, or maybe you do not. Maybe the word consultation sounds complicated. If Leo tries to translate transaction and consultation perfectly in his head, he will freeze. He will stand there looking confused, and the silence will become awkward. But let us look at the situation. Where is Leo? He is in a bank. Who is he talking to? A bank employee. What are the logical options here? Usually, when you walk into a bank, you either want to take out money or talk to someone about an account. The woman asked him a question with two choices. Even if Leo does not understand the specific words, he understands the tone. She is offering him help. Leo takes a breath. He remembers his main goal. He does not need to answer her question perfectly. He just needs to state his purpose. So, Leo smiles back and simply says, "I would like to open a new account, please." The woman smiles and says, "Absolutely. You will need to speak with an advisor for that. Please take a seat in the waiting area, and someone will be with you shortly." Did you notice what happened? Leo did not say yes or no to her specific question. He just said what he needed. The conversation continued smoothly. This is the secret. You do not need to answer the specific grammar of the question. You need to respond to the situation. Let us look at the woman's second sentence. She said, "You will need to speak with an advisor for that. Please take a seat in the waiting area, and someone will be with you shortly." Suppose Leo does not know the word shortly. He might worry. Does shortly mean in a long time? Does it mean he has to fill out a short form? But look at the context clues. She asked him to take a seat. Usually, when you are asked to sit and wait, it means you have to wait for a person to become free. Shortly is a word that describes time. Even if he ignores that word completely, the instruction is clear. Sit down and wait. The main message is successful. Leo goes to the chairs, sits down, and waits. He succeeded not because he understood every word, but because he understood the context of the bank and the body language of the receptionist. I want to dive a little deeper into this concept of context. Context is your best friend. It is more important than your dictionary. Context comes from three places. First, it comes from the physical location. If you are in a restaurant, the words you hear will be about food, drinks, money, and seating. You will not hear words about car engines or philosophy. This narrows down the possibilities. Second, context comes from the speaker's emotion. Is the person angry? Are they laughing? Are they in a hurry? If someone runs up to you on the street, breathing heavily, pointing at a bus that is driving away, and says something you do not understand, you can guess the meaning. They probably missed the bus. You do not need the words to know that. Third, context comes from what was said before. If you are talking about your summer holiday and the person asks a question, the question is likely about the weather, the food, or the hotel. It is unlikely to be about mathematics. When you listen, I want you to lean on these three pillars: location, emotion, and previous history. Let us try another scenario to practice this. This time, we will meet a character named Sophie. Sophie is a university student studying abroad. She is at a busy train station. Train stations are very difficult places for listening. There is a lot of noise. Announcements are echoing from the loudspeakers, and people are rushing everywhere. Sophie needs to buy a ticket to go to the coast for the weekend. She walks up to the ticket booth. The glass is thick, and the microphone makes the ticket seller's voice sound a bit robotic. Sophie says, "1 ticket to Brighton, please." The seller looks at his screen and says, We have a service departing in 10 minutes with a transfer at Gatwick, or a direct service leaving in an hour, but it is off-peak, so it is cheaper. Wow, that was a lot of information. Let us imagine Sophie's brain for a moment. She hears departing, transfer, direct, off-peak. Maybe she has never heard the term off-peak before. This is a very common B1 level struggle. An intermediate learner might panic here. They might think, oh no, what is off-peak? Is it a dangerous train? Is it a slow train? But let us look at the main message. The seller gave her two options. Option A is in 10 minutes. Option B is in an hour. He also mentioned that option B is cheaper. Sophie captures these keywords: 10 minutes, 1 hour, cheaper. Does she really need to know the definition of off-peak to make a decision? No. The logic tells her that the cheaper ticket requires waiting longer. That is the trade-off. Sophie is a student, so she wants to save money. She ignores the mystery word off-peak and focuses on the word cheaper. She says, I will take the cheaper one, please. The man nods and prints the ticket. This interaction was a success. Sophie survived the conversation. Later, when she is on the train, she might look up off-peak on her phone and learn that it means traveling at a time when fewer people are traveling. But at the moment of communication, the definition did not matter. The main message was the price and the time. This is what I want you to focus on. We call this gist listening. The gist is the core idea, the heart of the message. When you listen for the gist, you are listening for nouns and verbs. Adjectives and adverbs are like decorations. They are nice to have, but you can usually build a house without them. In the sentence, the incredibly angry dog barked loudly at the frightened postman. The main nouns and verbs are dog, barked, and postman. If you only hear those three words, you know what happened. A dog barked at a postman. You missed incredibly, angry, loudly, and frightened. But do you know the story? Yes. You can guess the dog was angry because it barked. You can guess the postman was frightened because dogs are scary. You constructed the meaning without 50% of the words. I want to take a moment to talk about the emotional side of this. Why is it so hard to just let go of the words we do not know? It is usually because of perfectionism. We feel that if we do not understand everything, we are failing. We feel like we are not good enough. I want you to change that mindset today. I want you to celebrate when you understand the main point, even if you missed the details. If you watch a movie in English, and you understand that the hero is trying to find his lost dog, you have succeeded. It does not matter if you did not understand the joke the taxi driver made in Scene 3. You are building fluency. Fluency is flow. Flow means moving forward like a river. A river does not stop because there is a rock in the way. It flows around the rock. When you hear a difficult word, flow around it. Do not stop. Let us move into a slightly more complex story now. We are going to follow a character named Marcus. Marcus is attending a dinner party with some English-speaking friends. Dinner parties are tricky because multiple people speak at once, and the topics change very fast. Marcus is sitting at the table eating some pasta. The person next to him, a friendly woman named Sarah, turns to him and asks, "So, Marcus, how are you finding the weather here? I know it has been dreadfully gloomy lately, hasn't it?" Marcus freezes. He knows weather. He knows lately. But dreadfully gloomy? Those are big words. He starts to panic. He thinks, what if gloomy means hot? What if it means cold? But then he looks out the window. It is raining. It has been raining for 3 days. He looks at Sarah's face. She is making a little grimace, a face that shows she is not happy about something. Marcus combines the rain outside with her unhappy face. He guesses that gloomy means bad, dark, or rainy. He does not need the dictionary. He smiles and says, "Yes, I miss the sun." Sarah laughs and says, "Me too." Marcus used the environment to decode the language. This is a skill you already have. You do this in your native language too. Sometimes, in your own language, you do not hear someone clearly because of a loud noise, or they mumble. Do you panic? No. You guess what they said based on the context. You need to give yourself permission to do the same thing in English. It is not cheating. It is communication. To practice this further, I am going to give you a listening exercise right now. I am going to tell you a short anecdote about a travel experience. I want you to listen for the main events. Who is traveling? Where are they going? What is the problem? And how is it resolved? Do not worry about the descriptive words. Just catch the plot. Here is the story. Last summer, my friend Elena decided to go hiking in the mountains. She packed her backpack with plenty of water, some snacks, and a map. She started her hike early in the morning when the air was crisp and fresh. For the first few hours, everything was wonderful. The birds were singing, and the path was clear. However, around noon, the sky began to change. Dark clouds gathered rapidly, and the wind started to howl. Elena realized a storm was approaching. She looked for shelter, but there were only trees. Suddenly, she spotted a small wooden cabin in the distance. She sprinted towards it just as the rain began to pour down in torrents. She reached the porch, breathless and soaked, but safe. She waited there for an hour until the storm passed, and then she hiked back down to her car. Okay, let us analyze that story. Did you catch the main points? Who? Elena. Where? Mountains. Problem. A storm or bad weather? Resolution. She found a cabin and waited. If you understood that, you understood the story. Now, maybe there were words in there that were fast or new. I used the phrase crisp and fresh to describe the air. If you missed crisp, does it matter? No. You know it was morning in the mountains, so it was probably nice. I used the phrase, the wind started to howl. Howl is usually a sound wolves make, but here, it is the wind. If you missed howl, did you still know the weather was getting bad? Yes, because of the dark clouds. I said she sprinted towards the cabin. Sprinted means ran very fast. If you thought she'd just walked to the cabin, the story is mostly the same. The detail of speed adds flavor, but it does not change the meal. I said the rain poured down in torrents. Torrents means a lot of water very quickly. If you just heard rain, you are fine. You are safe. This exercise shows you that you are capable of understanding much more than you give yourself credit for. The anxiety is the barrier, not the vocabulary. When you remove the anxiety, the meaning becomes clear. I want you to think about how children learn languages. A 2-year-old child does not know every word their parents say. When a father says, "Please go and put on your red shoes because we are going to the park," the child might only understand shoes and park. That is enough. The child runs to get the shoes. The child is a master of just listening. Somewhere along the way, as adults, we decided we need to be perfect. We need to go back to being like that child. Curious, observant, and focused on the result, not the process. Let us try another practice scenario. This one is a bit different. It is a telephone conversation. Telephone conversations are the hardest because you cannot see the person's face. You cannot see their hands. You only have the voice. This forces you to focus 100% on the audio cues. Imagine you are calling a hotel to book a room. You are the customer. The receptionist picks up. Listen to what he says. "Thank you for calling the Grand Plaza. Unfortunately, we are fully booked for the dates you requested due to the annual jazz festival taking place in the city. However, we do have availability the following weekend if your dates are flexible. Let us break this down. You asked for a room. What is the bad news? You heard unfortunately and fully booked. Even if you do not know what fully booked means, unfortunately is a negative signal word. It tells you the answer is no. Then he gives a reason. He mentions an annual jazz festival. Maybe you catch the word festival. That explains why it is busy. Then he uses a transition word. However. However is a magic word. It means the situation is changing. It signals hope. He says, "We have availability the following weekend." The main message is, no for this week, yes for next week. If you focus on the transition words like unfortunately, but, and however, they act like traffic signs. They tell you where the sentence is going. You do not need to understand the scenery, just follow the signs. Now, I want to address a common question I get from students. They ask, "Alex, if I ignore the words I do not know, how will I ever learn them?" This is a great question. There is a time for intensive study, and there is a time for extensive listening. Intensive study is when you sit with a text, a dictionary, and a notebook. You analyze every sentence. That is studying. But today, we are talking about fluency and listening in the real world. In a real conversation, you cannot stop and study. You must survive the interaction. However, the amazing thing is that by guessing the meaning from context, you actually learn the word. Remember Marcus and the word gloomy? He guessed it meant bad weather. The next time he hears gloomy, his brain will remember the rain and Sarah's unhappy face. He learned the word naturally, without a dictionary. This is how you learned your native language. You learned thousands of words just by hearing them in context again and again. Trust your brain. It is a learning machine. It wants to make connections. Let us go back to our friend Leo, the one who was at the bank. Let us see how he handles a social situation. Leo is invited to a barbecue. He is standing with a drink, and a man named Tom comes up to talk to him. Tom is speaking very fast and using a lot of slang. Tom says, "Hey mate, glad you could make it. The spread looks fantastic, doesn't it? I'm absolutely famished. I haven't eaten a bite since breakfast." Leo's brain goes into alert mode. Spread? Famished? What is happening? But Leo stays calm. He looks around. What is a spread? He sees the table full of food, salad, burgers, fruit. Tom is looking at the food. So, spread probably means the food on the table. Then Tom says he is famished and hasn't eaten since breakfast. If you haven't eaten all day, how do you feel? You feel hungry. So famished must mean very hungry. Leo nods and says, "Yes, the food looks great. I am hungry too." Tom smiles, and they go to get a burger. Leo connected the dots. He did not ask Tom to stop and explain. He kept the flow. This confidence creates a positive cycle. When you stay calm, you hear more. When you hear more, you understand more. When you understand more, you feel more confident. And when you are confident, you seek out more conversations. It is a spiral that goes up and up. The opposite is also true. If you panic, you hear less. You understand less. You feel bad. You avoid English. We want to stay in the positive spiral. One way to do this is to become comfortable with ambiguity. Ambiguity means not knowing exactly what is happening. It is that fuzzy feeling of uncertainty. Successful language learners are comfortable with being a little bit confused. They do not need 100% clarity. They are happy with 70% clarity. Can you aim for 70%? If you understand 70% of what you hear, you can manage almost any situation in an English-speaking country. You can travel, you can work, you can make friends. The other 30% will come with time. I want to give you a tool to use when you really are lost. Sometimes the main message is just too hard to find. Maybe the person is mumbling, or the topic is completely new. It is okay to ask for clarification, but you should do it in a specific way. Do not just say "what?" or "I don't understand." Those phrases stop the conversation. Instead, repeat back what you did understand and ask for confirmation. For example, if someone says, "You need to take the number 42 bus to the central station and then switch to the Metro Line B towards the airport." If you miss the middle part, you can say, "So, I take the number 42 bus first?" The person will say, "Yes," to the central station. This technique is called checking. It shows the other person you are listening, and it gives them a chance to repeat the missing information without you feeling foolish. It keeps the conversation moving forward. We are going to practice this checking technique with a short story involving a character named Anita. Anita is starting a new job in a coffee shop. Her manager, a busy woman named Brenda, is giving her instructions on how to close the shop at night. Brenda speaks quickly while wiping down the counter. She says, "Okay, Anita, listen up. At the end of the shift, you gotta wipe down the espresso machine, empty the puck drawer, tally the register, and make sure the back door is deadbolted." Anita catches wipe the machine and back door. She misses puck drawer and tally the register. Instead of panicking, Anita uses the checking technique. She says, "Got it. So I clean the machine? And what was the part about the register?" Brenda slows down and says, "Oh, just count the money in the register." Anita says, "Okay." "And lock the back door?" Brenda says, "Yes. Deadbolt it?" By asking specific questions about the parts she missed, Anita controls the speed of the conversation. She is an active listener, not a passive victim of the fast speech. This is a very powerful position to be in. You are taking control of your listening experience. You are not just hoping you understand. You are managing the understanding. As we continue with this session, I want you to start noticing how much you actually do understand. We are often so critical of ourselves that we focus on the failures. We focus on the one word we missed, not the 9 words we caught. Shift your focus. Give yourself credit for the 9 words. Say to yourself, "I understood that he is talking about his car. That is a win. I understood she is happy about her promotion. That is a win." Collect these wins like gold coins. The more you collect, the richer your confidence becomes. Now, we are going to move into a segment where we practice listening to descriptions. Descriptions can be hard because they use a lot of adjectives. But remember, we are hunting for the nouns and verbs. The main picture. Imagine I am describing a house to you. Listen to this. The house was an ancient, crumbling Victorian mansion with peeling paint, overgrown ivy climbing up the rotting trellis, and a sinister, dark atmosphere that made the neighbors avoid it. That is a lot of complex vocabulary. Ancient, crumbling, peeling, trellis, sinister. But what is the picture? It is an old house. Is it a nice house? No, it is in bad shape, crumbling, rotting. Do people like it? No, neighbors avoid it. If you walk away from that sentence thinking, it's an old scary house in bad condition, you got 100% of the important information. The writer or speaker used those other words to paint a mood, but the facts are simple. Do not let the mood words distract you from the fact words. Let us try another one. This time, a description of a person. My uncle is a boisterous, gregarious man with a thunderous laugh, a bushy mustache that twitches when he smiles, and a heart of gold despite his loud demeanor. Okay, look for the core. Uncle. Laugh, mustache, heart of gold. What kind of man is he? Is he shy? No, he has a thunderous laugh. Is he mean? No, he has a heart of gold. So he is a loud, nice man with a mustache. Boisterous and gregarious are just fancy ways of saying he is loud and social. If you missed them, you still know your uncle is a nice, loud guy. You have the main message. You can continue the conversation about the uncle perfectly well. You could say, he sounds like a fun person to be around. And you would be exactly right. We have covered the foundation of just listening. We understand that missing words is not a failure, but a natural part of the process. We know that context, location, emotion, history, provides the clues we need to fill in the gaps. We have met Leo, Sophie, Marcus, Elena, and Anita, and seen how they navigated their challenges not by being perfect, but by being smart and calm. Now, we are going to take these skills and test them in a much more challenging environment. We are going to leave the safety of the classroom examples and go on a trip. I want you to meet a new friend of ours named David. David is an intermediate English learner, just like many of you. He has studied grammar, he knows his vocabulary lists, and he can write a good email. But David has a dream. He wants to visit the rugged, beautiful coast of a northern region where the accent is strong, the people speak fast, and the slang is unique. He has booked his flight, packed his bags, and he is ready to go. But he is also terrified. He is worried that he will not understand a single word. Let us follow David as he lands at the airport. He steps off the plane and walks through the terminal. Everything is fine so far because signs are visual. He can read exit and baggage claim. But then, he walks outside to catch a taxi. This is the first real test. The air is cold and windy. He sees a line of taxis and gets into the first one. The driver is an older man with a thick local accent. He turns around and says something that sounds to David like, "Whar you headin', lad?" David freezes. He learned, "Where are you going?" In school. He never learned, "Whar you headin', lad?" His brain tries to find the words in his dictionary, but they are not there. Panic starts to rise. But David remembers our rule. Listen for the main message. What is the context? He is in a taxi. What does a taxi driver need to know? He needs to know the destination. Even though the sounds were strange, the situation is clear. David takes a deep breath and simply says the name of his hotel. "The Grand Coastal Hotel, please." The driver nods and says, "Righto, buckle up." David breathes a sigh of relief. He survived. This moment highlights a massive challenge for learners. Accents. English is spoken by millions of people, and almost everyone speaks it differently. You might be used to the clear, slow English of a teacher or a news anchor. Real people do not speak like news anchors. They cut words short. They change vowel sounds. They blend words together. In David's case, the driver shortened "Where are you" to "Where ya" and "heading to headin'." This is natural connected speech. To handle accents, you must stop expecting standard English. You must become a detective of sound. If the vowels sound strange, focus on the consonants. Consonants usually stay the same. The D in destination is usually a hard sound. The H in hotel is usually a breathy sound. Use the skeleton of the word to guess the body. And remember, the context limits what the person could possibly be saying. A taxi driver will not ask you about your favorite color. He will ask about your destination or the weather. David's taxi ride continues. The driver starts talking about the traffic. He talks very fast. David catches words like bridge, closed, and busy. He does not understand the full sentences. He does not know why the bridge is closed. Is it an accident? Is it construction? He does not know. But he understands the main message. The trip might take longer. David decides not to worry about the details. He looks out the window and enjoys the view. He nods occasionally and says, "Oh, really?" Or "I see." The driver is happy because someone is listening. David is happy because he is not stressed. This is a victory. You do not need to understand the structural engineering of the bridge to understand that you are stuck in traffic. They arrive at the hotel. Now David faces a new enemy: background noise. The hotel lobby is chaotic. There is a large group of tourists checking out, dragging their suitcases across the marble floor. The wheels make a loud rumbling noise. A coffee machine is grinding beans in the corner. Phones are ringing. David walks to the reception desk. The receptionist is a young woman who speaks softly. She says, "Welcome to the Grand Coastal. Do you have a reservation?" David hears welcome and reservation perfectly. He feels good. He says, "Yes, under David Miller." She types on her computer and then says something else. But just as she speaks, a suitcase falls over with a loud bang. David misses the middle of her sentence. He only hears, "Breakfast is served between," and then another noise blocks the time. What should David do? A beginner might just say yes and hope for the best. But breakfast times are important. If he misses breakfast, he will be hungry. This is a moment where specific details matter. David uses the checking technique we discussed earlier, but he adapts it for noise. He leans in slightly to show he is trying to listen. He points to his ear apologetically and says, "I am sorry. It is very noisy in here. Did you say 7 to 10? He guesses a logical time. The receptionist smiles, speaks louder, and says, "Nearly. It is from 7 to 9:30. David smiles and writes it down. By guessing and asking for correction, he made it easy for her to give him the right information. Background noise is like a fog for your ears. When you are driving in fog, you slow down. When you are listening in noise, you must slow the conversation down. You also need to use your eyes. In a noisy place, look at the speaker's mouth. This is not just for people with hearing loss. It is a powerful tool for language learners. The shape of the mouth tells you a lot about the sound. If the lips are closed, it might be an M or a P. If the mouth is wide, it is a vowel. This visual information helps your brain fill in the gaps that the noise erased. Also, watch their hands. If the receptionist points to the left when telling you where the elevators are, you do not need to hear the word left. You just follow the finger. David gets his key and goes to his room. He unpacks and decides to go out for dinner. He finds a lively pub filled with locals. The atmosphere is great, but the volume is high. Music is playing, glasses are clinking, and everyone is laughing. David sits at a small table. A waiter rushes over. The waiter is busy and speaks in a rapid-fire shorthand. He says, "Drink to start?" This is not a full sentence. A textbook would say, "Would you like a drink to start?" Real life says, "Drink to start?" David is ready for this. He knows that in busy restaurants, verbs and pronouns often disappear. He replies simply, "A water, please." Then the waiter asks about the specials. He rattles off a list. We got the fish and chips, the shepherd's pie, and the roast beef is off. Let us pause and analyze that last part. The roast beef is off. To a learner, off might mean it is not working, like a light switch. Or maybe it means it smells bad? No, in the context of a restaurant, if a dish is off, it means it is finished. They have no more. David pauses. He wants the roast beef. He asks, "Oh, the beef is good?" The waiter shakes his head and says, "No, mate, it's gone. Finished." David understands. He orders the fish and chips instead. Here, David encountered an idiom or a specific usage of a word. He did not panic. He checked his understanding. The waiter clarified with a simpler word, "Finished." This is a normal part of interaction. Native speakers misunderstand each other in loud pubs all the time. If a native speaker did not hear, they would say, "Sorry, what was that?" You have the right to do the same. The next morning, David decides to join a walking tour of the city. This brings us to a different kind of listening challenge, the long monologue. Unlike a conversation where you take turns, a tour guide talks for a long time. It can be 5, 10, or 15 minutes of continuous speech. This is exhausting for a learner. It requires stamina. David stands in the group. The guide is a passionate historian who loves to talk. He starts describing the history of the town wall. He talks about dates, kings, wars, and architecture. He uses words like fortification, medieval, and sovereignty. David's brain starts to get tired after 2 minutes. He feels his attention drifting away. He starts thinking about his lunch. Then he realizes he has stopped listening completely. This is very common. We call it listening fatigue. Your brain is working double time to translate and understand, and it burns energy like a runner sprinting up a hill. When you feel this happening, do not force yourself to catch every word. You will burn out. Instead, switch to a strategy I call island hopping. Imagine the stream of speech as a river. You cannot swim in the river forever. You will drown. So, look for little islands of simple words. When the guide says, in 1645, the king, that is an island. Rest there. You know it is about a king in 1645. Then the guide talks for another minute about complex politics. Let that water flow past you. Then you hear, destroyed by fire. That is another island. Jump to it. Now you have 2 facts. King, 1645, fire. You have the main story. You do not need the linking sentences. You can enjoy the tour by just hopping from island to island. David tries this. He stops trying to understand the political reasons for the war and just listens for the events. He hears built, attacked, rebuilt, tower. He looks at the tower. He understands that it was knocked down and built again. He nods. He enjoys the scenery. He is not stressed. He realizes that even the native speakers in the group are probably zoning out a little bit. Nobody listens with 100% attention for an hour. It is unnatural. By giving himself permission to miss parts, David actually understands more because he stays relaxed and open to the big keywords. Later on the tour, the guide asks a question to the group. He asks, "Does anyone know why the houses here are painted in different colors?" The group is silent. David actually read about this in his guidebook on the plane. He knows the answer, but he is afraid to speak. He worries his grammar will be wrong. He worries people will not understand his accent. But then he remembers his goal: confidence. He raises his hand. He says, "Is it? So the fishermen could see their house from the sea?" The guide beams and says, "Exactly. Spot on." To help them navigate home in the fog. David feels a rush of pride. He spoke. He was understood. The grammar was simple, but the message was perfect. This reinforces the idea that communication is about connection, not perfection. Let us look at another scenario David faces. He goes to a small shop to buy a souvenir for his sister. He wants to buy a wool scarf. He finds a beautiful blue one. He takes it to the counter. The shopkeeper is an elderly woman who loves to chat. She starts a conversation that has nothing to do with the sale. She says, "That blue brings out your eyes, love. Reminds me of my grandson. He lives in Australia now. You know, it's terrible hot there this time of year." David is confused. He expects the price. Instead, he hears Australia and hot. He thinks, "Am I buying an Australian scarf?" He is confused about the topic change. This is called a tangent. Native speakers love tangents. They jump from topic to topic. David needs to pivot. He realizes she is just making small talk. She is being friendly. He does not need to analyze the scarf's origin. He just needs to respond to the emotion. She sounds a bit sad but proud about her grandson. David smiles and says, "Australia is very far." The woman nods and says, "It is, it is. Anyway, that will be £20, dear." The conversation comes back to the transaction. David learns that sometimes listening is just about being a human presence. You just need to acknowledge the other person. You can use neutral phrases like, "Oh, really? That is interesting." Or "Is that so?" These phrases are like grease for the wheels of conversation. They keep things moving, even if you do not understand the details of the grandson's life in Australia. As David continues his trip, he encounters a situation where he completely misunderstands the main message. I want to share this because it is important to know that failure will happen, and it is not the end of the world. David is at a bus station. He asks a driver, "Does this bus go to the castle?" The driver nods and says, "Aye, it goes past the castle, but it doesn't stop there. You have to get off at the bottom of the hill." David only hears yes and castle. He gets on the bus. He sits down, happy. The bus drives past the castle. David waits for it to stop. It does not stop. It keeps going. David starts to panic. He presses the stop button, but the bus is already 2 miles down the road. He gets off in the middle of nowhere. He stands on the side of the road. He realizes his mistake. He missed the negative detail. Doesn't stop. Was this a disaster? At first, he feels stupid. He blames his English. But then, he looks around. He is in a beautiful valley he would never have seen otherwise. There is a nice little farmhouse nearby selling ice cream. He walks over, buys an ice cream, and asks the farmer how to get back. The farmer explains there is a walking path back to the castle that takes 20 minutes. David walks the path. It becomes the highlight of his day. He took a wrong turn, but he had a great adventure. The lesson here is that mistakes in listening rarely lead to catastrophe. They usually lead to inconveniences, funny stories, or unexpected detours. If you fear the mistake, you will never get on the bus. If you accept the mistake as a possibility, you relax. And when you relax, you actually listen better. Let us analyze why David missed that negative. Words like not, never, barely, and hardly are very important, but they are often unstressed. In the sentence it doesn't stop there. The stress is on stop. The doesn't is said very quickly. To catch these, you need to listen to the rhythm of the sentence. Often, a negative sentence has a slightly different melody. Or, you can use the checking technique we learned. If David had said, "So, it stops at the castle," the driver would have corrected him immediately. "No, it goes past." Always confirm the critical details: time, price, location, and yes/no. For everything else, you can guess. Now, I want to bring this back to you. You are not David, and you might not be in a foreign country right now. You might be at home, listening to a podcast, or watching a movie without subtitles. How can you practice these skills? I want you to try an exercise I call the 50% rule. Find a video on YouTube or a podcast episode that is slightly too difficult for you. Maybe it is for advanced speakers. Listen to it for 3 minutes. Your goal is not to understand everything. Your goal is to understand 50%. Tell yourself, I only need to catch half of this. When you lower the bar, your brain relaxes. You will be surprised to find that you actually understand 60% or 70%. If you aim for 100%, you will feel like you understood 0% because the panic blocks the input. Another exercise is ambient listening. This helps with the background noise problem. Put on a podcast or an English radio station while you are doing something else, washing dishes, cooking, or cleaning. Do not try to sit and study it. Just let the voices be there in the background. Every now and then, tune in. Catch a word. Catch a phrase. Then, tune out again. This trains your brain to be comfortable with the sound of English, without the pressure of total comprehension. It helps you get used to the rhythm and the melody of the language. It simulates the experience of living in an English-speaking country where you hear the language everywhere, but do not focus on it all the time. Let us return to David for one final challenge in this section. He has to make a phone call. He lost his sunglasses at the cafe he visited yesterday. He finds the number and calls them. Phone calls are the ultimate test because you have 0 visual clues. No lips, no hands, no facial expressions. The phone rings. A man answers, "Seaside Cafe? Hold on a sec." There is silence. David waits. This is cultural knowledge. Hold on means wait. He waits. The man comes back. "Yeah, sorry about that. Busy morning. What can I do for you?" David speaks clearly. "I think I left my sunglasses on a table yesterday. They are black." The man says, "Hang on, let me have a look in the lost and found box. I see a pair here, Ray-Bans. One lens is scratched." David listens. Ray-Bans is a brand. Scratched means damaged. David's glasses are not Ray-Bans, and they are not scratched. He has to disagree. He says, "No, those are not mine. Mine are generic, not a brand, and they are new." The man says, "Ah, right. Well, I've got another pair here." "Black plastic frames?" David says, "Yes." The man says, "Tell you what, swing by and take a look." We close at 5. David hears swing by. He has never heard this phrasal verb. But the context is, we close at 5. The man has the glasses. So swing by must mean come here or visit. David says, "Okay, I will come before 5. Thank you." David used logic to decode the phrasal verb. Phrasal verbs are very common in spoken English. Swing by, pop in, run out, get on. They are often made of simple words used in a new way. If you try to translate them literally, swing by might make you think of a swing in a playground. That makes no sense. But if you look at the action required, going to the cafe, the meaning becomes obvious. Don't get hung up on the little prepositions. Look at the big action. But there is still more to learn. Social interaction is not just about transactions like buying tickets or ordering food. It is about connecting on a deeper level. It is about telling stories, understanding jokes, and expressing feelings. So, let us now move to the most challenging level of all. This is the boss level of language learning. It is the social gathering, the dinner party, the group chat in a coffee shop. This is where many learners feel the most defeated. You might feel comfortable talking one-on-one with a teacher or a patient friend, but put yourself in a group of 4 native speakers, and suddenly you feel invisible. You feel like a ghost. The conversation moves so fast, overlapping and twisting, that you cannot find a way in. You sit there, nodding silently, while your brain screams in panic. Today, we are going to change that. We are going to turn you from a ghost into a guest. We are going to learn how to navigate the chaos of group conversations, how to handle jokes you do not understand, and how to speak even when you do not have the words. Let us introduce our final character for this series. Her name is Julia. Julia has moved to a new city for work. She is at a B1 level. She can handle her job, she can go shopping, and she can watch TV with subtitles. But tonight, she has been invited to a housewarming party by her colleague, Sam. She stands at the door with a bottle of wine in her hand, her heart pounding against her ribs. She takes a deep breath and knocks. Sam opens the door, smiling. He pulls her inside. The house is full of people. There is music playing. In the living room, there is a group of 5 people sitting on sofas, laughing and drinking. Sam leads Julia over and says, "Everyone, this is Julia." "Julia, this is Mike, Sarah, Ben, and Chloe." Everyone says hi or hey at the same time. Then Sam walks away to get drinks, leaving Julia standing there. This is the moment of truth. The group instantly goes back to their conversation. They are telling a story about a camping trip they went on years ago. They are interrupting each other. Mike says, "Do you remember the tent?" And Sarah screams, "Oh my God, the tent! I thought we were going to die." And Ben laughs, "It wasn't that bad. You were just being a drama queen." Julia is lost. She hears tent and die. She thinks, did someone die? Why are they laughing? This is the first challenge of group listening. The overlap. In a textbook audio, people take turns. A speaks, then B speaks, then A speaks. In real life, A and B speak at the same time, and C laughs over both of them. Julia's instinct is to try to listen to everyone at once. She moves her eyes from Mike to Sarah to Ben, like she is watching a tennis match with 3 balls. This makes her dizzy. She catches nothing. Here is the secret strategy: the spotlight method. When a conversation is chaotic, do not try to listen to the whole group. Pick one person, usually the one who is telling the story or speaking the loudest, and shine your mental spotlight only on them. Ignore the interjections. Ignore the people laughing or making small comments on the side. Focus on the main narrator. In this case, Mike seems to be telling the story. Julia locks her eyes on Mike. She watches his mouth. She listens to his voice. She ignores Sarah screaming about being a drama queen. She hears Mike say, "The wind collapsed the pole, and the whole thing fell on us while we were sleeping." Now Julia understands. The tent fell down. Nobody died. It was just a funny disaster. By ignoring the extra noise, she found the main thread. Suddenly, the group bursts into laughter again. Chloe makes a joke. She says, "It was like a burrito made of humans." Everyone laughs hysterically. Julia smiles, but she does not really understand. A burrito? Why a burrito? This brings us to the second major challenge: humor. Jokes are cultural. They often rely on wordplay, cultural references, or shared history. A burrito is a food wrapped in a tortilla. Chloe is comparing the people trapped in the collapsed tent to the filling of a burrito. It is a visual metaphor. For a learner, this takes time to process. By the time Julia processes the image, the laughter has stopped and the topic has changed. What should Julia do? Should she stop the party and ask, "Excuse me, why is it like a burrito?" No, that kills the vibe. That stops the energy. In a social setting, your goal is flow, not facts. Julia uses a technique I call the social smile. She sees everyone else laughing. She understands the emotion is happiness and shared embarrassment. She smiles. She even chuckles a little bit. Is she faking it? A little. But she is participating in the emotion. She is signaling to the group, "I am with you. I am part of this circle." This is not dishonest. It is social intelligence. Later, when things are quiet, she might ask Sam, "Hey, I didn't catch the joke about the burrito." Sam will explain it, and she will learn. But in the moment, she keeps the rhythm going. The conversation shifts. They start talking about movies. This is easier ground. Ben asks Julia, "So Julia, have you seen the new space movie?" Julia nods. "Yes, I saw it last week." Ben asks, "What did you think of the ending?" Julia has a strong opinion. She thought the ending was terrible because the hero gave up too easily. She wants to say, it was disappointing because the protagonist surrendered without a struggle. But she forgets the word surrender and struggle. She freezes. This is the tip of the tongue problem. You know what you want to say, but the English word is locked in a box, and you do not have the key. Many students just stop. They say, "I don't know," and give up. Julia decides to use a superpower called circumlocution. Circumlocution means talking around the word. It means describing the object or action using simple words you already know. Julia forgets surrender, so she thinks, what does surrender mean? It means to stop fighting. It means to put your hands up. So she says, "I didn't like it." The hero, he just stopped fighting. He said okay to the bad guy. I wanted him to fight more. Did she use the word surrender? No. Did Ben understand? Perfectly. Ben says, exactly. He just gave in. I hated that too. This is a critical skill. You do not need a dictionary in your head if you have the ability to describe things. Let us practice this. Imagine you are in a kitchen and you want to open a bottle of wine. You need a corkscrew, but you forget the word corkscrew. Do not panic. Describe it. Do you have the metal thing for the wine? You turn it? The spiral tool? The person will say, "Oh, a corkscrew. Here. Success." Imagine you want to talk about a pineapple, but you forget the name. You say, "The fruit. It is yellow inside. It has spikes on the outside. It is sweet and sour." They will know. Never let a missing word stop your voice. Use the words you have to build a bridge to the meaning. Let us go back to the party. The group is now debating something more serious. They are talking about remote work versus working in an office. This is a complex topic with abstract vocabulary. Mike says, "I feel that the lack of face-to-face interaction hinders spontaneous collaboration." That is a C1 level sentence. Hinders means stops or makes difficult. Spontaneous collaboration means working together without planning. Julia hears interaction and collaboration. She gets the gist. Mike thinks working from home makes teamwork harder. Sarah disagrees. She says, "But the productivity gains from eliminating the commute are undeniable." Julia hears productivity and commute. She gets the gist. Sarah likes saving time by not traveling. Julia wants to join in. She has an opinion. She prefers the office because she gets lonely at home. She waits for a pause. This is hard because native speakers do not leave big gaps. You have to jump in. You have to be brave. Julia sees Mike take a breath. She jumps. She says, I agree with Mike. But also, for me, home is too quiet. I need people. The group turns and looks at her. They are listening. She continues, when I am home, I talk to my cat. It is not good for ideas. The group laughs warmly. Sarah says, totally, I miss the coffee breaks. Julia successfully entered a complex debate with simple language. She did not use words like isolation or brainstorming. She used quiet, people, and ideas, and it worked. This teaches us a valuable lesson. Simple is strong. You do not need to speak like a professor to be intelligent. In fact, simple language is often clearer and more powerful. Do not apologize for your simple English. Own it. Speak your truth with the nouns and verbs you have. The group does not care about your grammar. They care about your personality. They want to know you, not your textbook. As the night goes on, Julia feels tired. Listening in a second language is exhausting. It is physical work. Her brain feels full. This is the moment where many learners check out. They pull out their phone. They hide in the bathroom. They go home early. I want to encourage you to push through this wall, just a little bit. This is called building stamina. Just like running, you only get stronger when you run past the point of being tired. Julia decides to stay for one more hour. She stops trying to understand every conversation. She sits back, eats some snacks, and just lets the sound of English wash over her. She engages in passive immersion. She watches the body language. She sees who likes who. She sees who is shy. She learns that communication is 50% nonverbal. By relaxing, she actually catches more words than when she was trying hard. She hears snippets. Tomorrow morning. Don't tell him. Delicious pizza. She pieces together little mini-stories without effort. Finally, the party is ending. People are putting on their coats. This is the easiest part of the night. The goodbyes. The scripts are predictable. It was great to see you. Get home safe. We should do this again. Julia knows these scripts. She says, thank you for having me. It was fun. Sam smiles and says, you were great, Julia. Everyone loved you. Julia walks out into the cool night air. She feels proud. Did she understand every word? No. Did she understand the burrito joke? Not really. But she was there. She connected. She shared her opinion. She survived. This journey we have taken, from the bank to the street to the party, is a map for your own learning. I want to bring all the threads together now. What have we learned across these 3 sessions? First, we learned about the trap of perfectionism. We learned that trying to understand every word creates anxiety, and anxiety blocks your ears. We learned to let go of the difficult words and flow around them like water around a rock. Second, we learned about the power of context. We learned that the situation, the bank, the restaurant, limits the vocabulary. We learned to use visual clues, emotions, and logic to guess the meaning. If someone is holding a menu, they are talking about food. If someone is crying, they are talking about sadness. This is your anchor. Third, we learned about the checking technique. We learned that it is okay to ask for clarification, but we should do it specifically. Instead of saying, I don't understand, say, did you say 7 o'clock? Or, so, I should go left? This keeps the conversation moving and puts you in control. Fourth, we learned about navigating obstacles. We looked at accents, background noise, and phrasal verbs. We learned to listen for the skeleton of the word, consonants, when the vowels are strange. We learned to ask for repetition when it is noisy. And we learned to look at the physical action to understand phrasal verbs like swing by. Finally, we learned about social strategy. We learned the spotlight method for groups. We learned to smile through the jokes we miss. We learned to use circumlocution to describe words we forget. And most importantly, we learned that simple English is enough to build complex connections. Now, I want to give you a final challenge. This is a story that combines everything. I want you to listen to this story and notice how you feel. Do not analyze it. Just experience it. Imagine you are the main character. You are sitting in a busy cafe in London. It is raining outside. You are waiting for a friend you have not seen in 10 years. You are nervous. You wonder if you will recognize him. Suddenly, the door opens with a jingle of bells. A man walks in. He is shaking a wet umbrella. He is wearing a long coat and a hat. He looks around the room, scanning the faces. His eyes stop on you. He smiles, a big, warm smile that wrinkles the corners of his eyes. He walks over to your table. "Well, look at you," he says, his voice booming. "You haven't aged a day. I almost didn't recognize the place. They've done it up completely since we were last here. Remember the old orange wallpaper? Hideous stuff." He pulls out a chair and sits down, sighing happily. "I'm absolutely parched. I've been running around like a headless chicken all morning, trying to sort out my visa for the trip. A total nightmare, let me tell you." A waiter comes over. The man looks up and says, "Just a black coffee for me, mate, and a slice of that carrot cake if you've got any left." He turns back to you, leaning in. "So, tell me everything. I want the full scoop. Don't leave anything out." How did that feel? Let's check. Did you catch the emotion? He is happy to see you. He is relaxed. Did you catch the context? He is an old friend. He has had a busy morning. Did you catch the details? The cafe is renovated. No more orange wallpaper. He wants coffee and carrot cake. Did you understand headless chicken? Maybe not. But the context was busy morning and nightmare. So, headless chicken means rushing around in a panic. You guessed it. Did you understand the full scoop? Maybe not. But he said, "Tell me everything." So, the full scoop means the full story. You see? You did it. You understood a fast, natural, slang-filled interaction. You are ready. The path to fluency is not a straight line. It is a winding road with hills and valleys. There will be days when you feel like a genius, and days when you feel like a beginner again. That is normal. The only way to fail is to stop listening. Every time you turn on a podcast, every time you watch a video, every time you try to speak, you are winning. I want you to make a promise to yourself today. Promise that you will stop apologizing for your English. Promise that you will stop fearing the unknown words. Embrace the mystery. Enjoy the puzzle. When you hear a word you do not know, treat it like a treasure hunt, not a test. Ask yourself, what could it mean? Play with the language. We have designed this English in Fluency series to be your companion, but the real work happens out there in the world. Go find those conversations. Go make those mistakes. Go tell your stories, even if you have to use the thing for the wine instead of corkscrew. Because the world wants to hear what you have to say. Your voice matters. Your ideas matter. The language is just the bridge, and you already have enough bricks to build it. Thank you so much for joining me, Alex, on this deep dive into listening confidence. It has been a privilege to guide you. Keep your ears open, keep your mind calm, and remember, don't worry about every word. Understand the message. Build the confidence. Until next time, keep practicing, keep listening, and keep flowing. This is English in Fluency, signing off.